I welcome all the participants in week 10 session 2. Here we are going to discuss about the further on the topic people's participation that we have already started talking about. So this means people's participation is so important. Being a social worker and activist, we have to understand whenever we go for any kind of the activities in the community, either for through the community work, community development, community organization, or for the social action, we need some kind of the people's participation at depending upon the goals and then strategy and the situation. The level of people's participation, it could vary, but overall the people's participation always gives a better, it's a best approach for the development and for the success of any programs and policies. Let's first talk about the principles of community participation. Here, principle of participation, where first talks about the inclusivity. That talks is actually about the community's engagement should be inclusive and accessible to all members of the community. It involves making efforts to involve diverse voices and perspective, ensuring that everyone feels, welcome and valued. That is what inclusivity means. We have to give in the space that everyone would participate, even to those who are marginalized and disadvantaged, they give in the whole space. So include them in the whole process of the people's participation and for the whole programs and policy for which you are there. Transparency. These principles of the community participation says that through people's participation, things became more transparent. When the people, they do participate, they, even from the from planning to implementation, so at every stage, so they feel more connected to anything, so any program. So because the things became more transparent because of due in due of their participation. So, and the next is about two-way communication. Two-way communication says that community engagement is not just about broadcasting, information, but involves listening and responding to the community's needs, concerns, and feedback. It's a two-way communication, that dialogue that values impact from all stakeholders. So, it's not only that you have to speak and just give in the information. Rather, you have to listen, you have to observe, you have to take in the space for the community members and to the community members, so they could participate, and then so the communication would be considered to be a two-way. So that is very important principle of people's participation. Respect for diversity. Definitely, you are working in a community where the communities are of the diverse nature of belong to different, communities, sub communities, different region, different religion. If you are working in the urban, so it could be from the different region. But if you are working in the rural areas, it could be from the different caste. So diverse in a sense, communities are always diverse, right? So you have to respect that diversity, taking everyone included. Next is about the empowerment. So whenever you see the, this particular principle of empowerment, that is with the, people's participation, there's always, it's a, it's a package. Whenever you talk about the people's participation, empowerment comes automatically, because empowerment comes through the participation. So starting from at any levels, but once the community or the members do participate or started participating, they develop the kind of the insight, they develop the self capacity, self worth. So this, through this all, they have developed some kind of the empowerment. Next principle says that responsiveness. So being responsive to the needs and then concerns of the community is so essential. This include acknowledging feedback, addressing issues, and adapting strategies based on the evolving needs of the community. So responsiveness, once you actually giving the space to people to participate, you have to responsive enough to listen to them, what they actually wants. So it's not just mere they have to speak up and you're not giving due respect to them, but you have to be responsive towards the needs and then statements coming out from the community. So that is what this another very important principle. Next is sustainability. Community engagement and people's participation is an ongoing process, not one time, like once you are going and for some programs and then you have given the space for their participation and later on not. So it's not. Sustainability, people's participation always go with the sustainability. Once you given the space, given this courage to, once they do participate, started participating, things became more sustainable, because with the participation, things became more, in a good terms, became more sustainable. Adaptability. Communities change, and effective engagement requires adaptability, being open to new ideas, embracing change and adjusting strategies based on the evolving nature of the community contribute to successful engagement. So adaptability, giving that kind of the training and the space to the community members when they do participate, they could adapt the things, because definitely you're going with some kind of the package, with some kind of the programs and policies for which the community members are not aware about. So given the whole kind of the training, or giving the whole kind of the space where they do develop the kind of the adaptability, right? So once they adapt the things, they do participate. So it's a vice versa. Once they do participate, they adapt the thing, and so once they adapt any programs and policies, they feel develop more confidence, and they started participating at the more higher level. Measurable impact. So, it's important to measure and evaluate the impact of community participation. This principle says that you have to be, going with this all kind of the assumption. This principle talks about that when you actually promoting the people's participation and community participation, things became more better. So, you have to be in a confidence manner that you can measure the overall impact. That impact would be a much better condition, or the impact would be a much better. Now, coming to the philosophy of people's participation or community participation, Add Food and Agriculture Organization has, taking this people's participation from three perspectives. This is about the philosophy that people's participation of any programs and policies make it more functional. It is more empowering for the community. It is more philosophical in terms. So let's discuss one by one. So first is functional. So this is what utilitarian aspect of participation. When you actually make the people's participating in any program, things became more functional. Things became more, utilized. You can utilize the maximum of the resources, of the programs, of the policies. So community involvement is often time bound and task specific. If it is so things became more functional. Decision making is typically led by external agencies or experts. So this philosophy says that when you have to make the things more functional, so external agencies involvement is required, because they actually put some kind of the management, they go with some kind of the management, they put some kind of the restrictions on times, and task specific thing has to be happened. If it is functional, so local people contribute labor or other inputs, but may have limited influences over outcomes. So this is this philosophy of people's participation says that people's participation is functional when and it's always functional, and it could be more functional if it has to be attached with some agencies, and agencies has to look after the thing. Communities participation has to be there, but at the certain limited aspect. So it's not about the social action. This functional aspect is not actually advocating about the social aspect, rather it's more about the community organization aspect. So the potential benefits of the participation for the community members, academics and health professionals include opportunities for networking, access to information, resource, or personal recognition. Actually learning a sense of helping to solve community problem, improved relationship among stakeholders, increased capacity for problem solving, and contact with hard to reach population. So this is what is about the philosophy of people's participation. So first one was a functional, second is about the empowering. So empowering and enhancing their capacity to influence, empowering is what is about the enhancing their capacity to influence. Enhancing their capacity means community's capacity to influence and take control. Here empowering participation means to increase the independence, awareness and capacity of marginalized communities. So what are the things comes under as an important aspect within the philosophy of empowering? Community members actively participate in planning, decision making and implementation. That is why the philosophy of participation says that it is more empowering thing. It focuses on skill development and resource access for long-term benefits. That's about the important ingredient for anything to be empowering or empowerment oriented. It helps reduce the dependency on external agencies and promote sustainability. So here, once community would participate, they became more empowered. So they don't much dependent on the external agency, unlike in the this functional philosophy of the people's participation. Now next is philosophical. Philosophical here means value driven. Where philosophical participation actually allow expressions of alternative views. This is more value driven approach that regards participation as a fundamental right of individuals and communities. So this philosophy says that it is fundamental right of every community, or every member of the community. They have the they do must participate. This is so, it's a more value driven. The value is attached here, that everyone's inclusivity here is as a value. So if here emphasis on participation as a democratic process, encourage respect for diverse voices and perspective, especially marginalized groups. That is what the philosophy here treats participation not just as a means to an end, but as an intrinsic good. So here end is not only the targeted things, rather means is also important, because here the values of the people's participation has been given to actually encourage them, to give them the whole space to grow and develop. So that's why it's more philosophical. So just moving ahead, participation is seen from two perspectives. One is participation as a process, second as a participation as an end. So Unsteins believe that extent of empowerment is more limited to participation as means than it is in participation as an ends. Rural developmental projects or any rural development projects have been driven by broader economic goals, whereas fulfilling basic community needs has received less priority. So commonly assuming that economic growth will trickling down to the overall the most marginalized elements of the community in a space. However, lack of community participation has often resulted in the community poverty deprivation trap, which actually it increased the underdevelopment. So this is what the assumptions that of the economic development perspective, that was the economic development happened, it trickled down to the everyone of the community, even to the disadvantage. But it is an actual sense, it is not happening because of the dynamics of the community, because of the power structure of the community, so that the more powerful holds or take the more opportunity and more benefit of any programs and policies. And so this whole trap of disadvantage or trap of poverty has always been there. So that's why, as per the Anstein, it has been suggested that giving so much priority of participation as a means is important, right? So if people don't participate, they are not aware and are not able to get the benefits of any program. So it's very important to give the space for the participation. So participation as a process or as a means sees as a process in development program. There is involvement of local people in implementation of externally designed initiatives. There is a collaboration along with external agencies and local population, whereby externally designed development activities are implemented in a participatory manner. Thus, participation is a means of instrument to implement a program to achieve desired goals. So, participation as a means is important, as Arnstein has already mentioned. So participation as an end. So what does this mean? So participation is a goal of policy initiative, that is the maximum thing of any program, to maximize the people's participation or to empower them. So if the goal is empowering certain community members, so then through some kind of giving some kind of skills, knowledge and experiences, so that take a greater responsibility for their development. So people are provided access to power and resources to create opportunities which are self-sustaining. So it's not about any projects and programs to, of this level of education has to be given, and or any very specific thing. Rather to giving the training, giving the space, giving some kind of knowledge and awareness. So people, once they get all the strength and skill and in capacity and capabilities and connectivity, they will do the things by their own. So this became more sustainable. But participation as a process is so important. To make anything again, as a more sustainable in a term. So in a both way, participation as a means is important, as well as the participation as end is important. But what I believe so, and Arnstein has mentioned that participation as a process is so important. So how participation and as a means and as an end are different from each other. So participation as a means it implies use of participation to achieve some predominant goals or objectives. Here, Endeavors to community participation as an end means endeavors to bestow power to people to participate more evocatively, means they have to participate. Their participation is actually the end of the any programs and policy. It is an attempt, as a means it is an attempt to utilize the existing resources in order to achieve the objective of the programs and projects. Whereas in the community participation as an end, the approach tries to ensure the increased role of people in rural development or urban development even initiatives. The stress here as means is on achieving the objective of objectives and not so much on the act of participation itself. Here at the end, the focus is on improving the ability of the people to participate rather than just in achieving the predominant objectives of the project. It is more common in government programs where the main concern is to mobilize the community and involve them to improving of the delivery system. Here this view finds relatively less favor with the government agencies. Rural development agencies in principle agree with this viewpoint. This view finds relatively less favor with the government agencies. Rural development agencies in principles agree with the viewpoint of participation in generally short-term viewed as long-term process appears to be a passive form of participation, whereas in community participation as an end relatively more active and long-term. So this is what about the difference between these two. David Wilcox sets out the following as a model of different possible levels of participation, that is information, consultation, deciding together, acting together, supporting independent community initiative. So actually David Wilcox talks about the different level. So these level may be appropriate in different circumstances or with different groups. So like first is information, that is the least you can do is tell people what is planned. So it's about just informing them, right? In consultation you offer, in the consultation means actually maybe to appropriate when you want to evaluate or improve existing services. There are limited options and you are trying to choose among them. So that is what the consultation. And then again perhaps because of the of a funder, why only certain people or groups can be officially involved in the planning process. So here in the consultation you offer some certain kinds of the options, and out of those options the committee member has to choose. Deciding together, you encourage others to provide some additional ideas and options and join in deciding the best way forward. So here you have to giving the space for the people's participation even at the planning and to the implementation level. Acting together, not only to different interests decide, to do different interests decide together what is best, but they form a partnership to carry out. Here acting together is again a further one scale up level of the people's participation, where partnership has also been given in any kind of the programs and policy. Next is supporting independent community initiatives. You may help others do what they want. So perhaps within a framework of grants, advice and support provided by the resource holder. Here you have to act from the outside rather from the inside. So means the community member, they have to themselves decide the all issues and the programs and then resources. So you just have to programs, issues, concerns. So you have to participate in supporting and facilitating some kind of the services or some kinds of the resources what they are in need of for that particular program. It's also about the degree of community participation with some little variations you could understand. So community ownership and sustainability goes as up as you move from co-option to collective action, right? So here in this slide, this arrow shows a kind of moves up the community's ownership and sustainability from co-option to collective action, right? So the level has been increased and enhanced. So the level of ownership and sustainability enhanced. So the at the very lowest level of the people's participation is about the co-option. So it's about the token involvement of local people or representatives are chosen, but have no real power or real inputs they can give. So that is only the co-option, taking them along with any kind of the program. So that is only the thing. Compliances where the tasks are assigned with incentives, outsider decide agenda and direct the process. It could be a kind of the material participation where task has been given to them, or once they have accomplished those tasks, they could, given some kind of incentive. So this is outsider decide agenda and direct the process. So overall, who actually decided the process and who developed the agendas? That is the outsider. That outsider could be any agency, governmental agency or private, depending upon the project and program. Next step is about the consultation. In the consultation, local opinions are asked, outsiders are analyzed and decide the course of action. So here the committee members, local opinions or the committee members' opinions are taken so important and they have been asked, and then finally then agency has to analyze it, whatever the information has been given by the committee members, how much it is correct, how much it is need to be involved, how the things has to be prioritized. So this all been overall course of action has been decided by external agency or by whoever involved into the program. Next step is about cooperation. Cooperation means local people and outsiders share their knowledge to create a new understanding and work together and develop action plans with outside facilitation. This is more about the two-way communication. So here cooperation with where the local people work with the outsiders. So and defining in the priorities, defining the in every steps they actually do participate. Then next is about the co-learning. Local people and then outsiders share their knowledge to create new understanding and work together to develop action plans with outsider facilitation. So here the agency could participate. There's very little difference between the cooperation and co-learning. Right, in cooperation, both the parties come together, they cooperate with each other. So if the how much the requirement of participation has been there is been taken from the community side. So even a responsibility remains with the outsider for the directing the process, the overall. Finally, the responsibility is on the external agencies, right? But in the co-learning, both the parties actually interacting with each other, the outsider and then committee member, to share the knowledge to create a new understanding. Maybe the committee members, the perception and then understanding of their own reality is not actually correct. So with you, maybe they're coming with some kind of the discussions and problems. You actually, try to redraft and draft their issues and concerns. With both the kind of the two-way learning and two-way discussion, things became more clear. A new understanding of the reality could be possible to actually come out. So together to develop action plans with outside facilitation. So together they develop some kind of the plan, some kind of the programs that we are going to do this, but again the kind of for the resource assess facilitation for the sometime in the for the budget or sometime for any kind of the skills or the training, they depended on the outside agencies. Next is the highest level is about the collective action. So local people set their own agenda and mobilize to carry it out. The absence of outside initiators and facilitators here, external agencies or initiators and facilitators need not to be involved so much at any level. So if they needed, so they could ask some other agencies or some government, and they could with their own networking they can facilitate those programs from maybe from some internal agency, some international agency, maybe from the government, maybe from the PRI. So that is one of the collective action. So once any community members they do, actually this is more about the social action. Collective action is more about the community action. So even co-learning and cooperation is more towards the community organization, if you look into the overall philosophy of these level of people's participation. Okay, just moving ahead. Factors which influences the degree of community participation. So although most developmental agencies agree on the importance of adopting a participatory approach in rural development or overall development initiatives, evidences suggest that the participation as a concept and as a methodology is quite complex, and is successful depends on many interrelated factors. So your understanding of those factors, of those community factors or agency factors sometime, or the policy factors sometime, communities, the power structure. So this all important to understand the level of people's participation and how much you are actually given the space for the people's participation, how anything is going to be successful. So that is what what are the factors which influence the degree of community participation, that the degree of participation which we have talked about through these two ways. So relevance and accountability, how we can actually enhance the overall people's participation. Relevance and accountability, to extent to which initiatives actually address community identified needs and priorities. If things became more accountable and relevant to the community, people's will actually, the level of people's participation would enhance from co-optation to co-learning to collective action. Community awareness, if the community is more aware, so they may definitely participate more, so their involvement would be enhanced and increased. So it's all depend on the level of awareness of the community. If the community is not aware about anything, they would won't participate and won't come to they give their own any kind of the level of participation. So community awareness is the is very important for to actually making the peoples participate. Then community infrastructure, including community networks. If any community is having a good infrastructure in terms of the community networks, in terms of the any kind of the capital, so it be it social capital, human capital, physical capital, cultural capital, political capital, it could be any of kind. So if the community is having a good level of the infrastructure, they have more kind of the confidence to participate, and so they do participate more with, and they do participate and given their due all those resources of the community to give to for the any kind of the programs and policy. So not just mere participation of their physical participation, but participation from their own resources, and then kind of the networking, the kind of the capital they do have. Next, how you can enhance the social people's participation through social and cultural, by understanding the norms and understanding the cultural aspects of the community, because now norms that support collective action foster higher level of participation. If any community is not valued, the people's participation is not valued, the overall there maybe for say like if I take the example of the women's participation, maybe in some communities the women are not allowed to come outside of their homes, and they are not allowed to come in any social forum. So their value system, their cultural things make it difficult for women to participate. And if you are going to work for some projects for the women only, maybe for the SHGs, or maybe for any other kind of the activities, it's became very difficult for you to actually cater this and to actually involve the women's and to take the women's participation into that program. So it's depend on the value and cultural thing, that again you have to work on by developing some kind of the accountability, making the things more relevant to them, making the community aware on that how if the women's would participate, how the things would change. So then you have to critically make the things more viable, more understandable for the community. Next is the level of intersectoral collaboration. So high level of collaboration ensure that resources and expertise and responsibility are shared effectively, enabling broader and deeper participation. So the level of intersectoral collaboration is important to maximize the people's participation, because there are many stakeholders into the community or for any programs and projects. So you're networking with all kind of the stakeholders and taking every stakeholders into the loop of the participation. So that's what actually maximize the level of participation for any programs and policies. Institutional support. Support from the government and organization can enable participation at all levels. So see, if any programs and policy which is being governed by any government policies, or it is from any kind of the international program, maybe like we have witnessed that how that UNICEF and in support with the government of India, how actually they eradicate the polio from India. So since many years they have worked with the local agencies and then with the government agencies and all. So the things which has been having lot institutional support is there, so things became easier in terms of the resources, in terms of the time, in terms of the skills required, in terms of the assistance required. So things became more easier. So if institutional support has been there for any program, so through all these factors we can enhance the people's participation. And also the some more like political stability. If any community is having more stable political environment, that foster a trust in institution, creating a conducive atmosphere for community engagement. So for people's participation, if they do have this kind of the faith with the political parties and with the governance, they do start participating in more with more confidence. Good leadership. So effective and inclusive leadership can encourage deeper participation. So if any in any community for any program, if the all the community members having faith on their leader, maybe elected or selected, or maybe any community leaders or the local leaders. So if they have a faith on their leaders, so things became easier to make the peoples participated in any kind of activities. A sense of ownership. When community members feel personally invested in projects, decision or initiatives that affect them, it enhances commitment to the success and sustainable of initiatives. Legally available resources in reduces cost and dependency on external and aid and build on local strength, making initiatives more sustainable. If the things, as I have already mentioned, if institutional support, same way here as a legally available resources is there. So again, it gives more legitimized to any kind of the activity, and so the people would participate with more confidence. Resources and skills. Availability of resources and training enhances participation through giving some kind of the resources, through providing some kind of the training to the community members. So this all instills the kind of confidence, and so they do participate more. So these were the some factors which are influencing the degree of people's participation. Now the next so this is all about today's lecture, where we have discussed about the very important aspect of people's participation, how we can enhance the people's participation, at what level the people's participation has been there, what are the principles we have to keep in mind once we are working with the community for their participation and to take their participation. Thank you so much.